The Minister of Power, that's Chief Dayo on Tuesday, said that full commercialization of the electricity supply industry would ensure the growth of the sector. According to him, Nigerians spend up to 20 trillion naira annually on fuel and the servicing of generators. The minister also confirmed at the Nigerian Oil and Gas Energy Week in Abuja that the huge amount was far higher than about 1 trillion naira that's spent on grid electricity annually. The power sector, he said, will require over 5 times the revenue that is currently utilized in the domestic gas market to achieve 70% gas-powered electricity generation. Arise News analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us now to discuss the minister's call for full commercialization of the power sector and if that could lead to improved efficiency. Thank you for joining us on Newsday, Mr. Sobowale. Welcome.
It's a pleasure being here, Suja.
It's great to have you. So could this be the answer to our power issues, our challenges, this commercialization?
Well, he's expressing an opinion. You must know, try to see the context in which he's talking. He's talking to investors, so he's not talking to Nigerians. He's talking to investors, and he's using the language of the free market economy, you get me, to tell them to come and invest in Nigeria. I have no business with that. That is between him and the investors. But you see, his analogy is what I quarrel with. He said we now spend 1 trillion on maintaining the grid that is not functioning, or minimally, at least, and that Nigerians spend 20 trillion on generators and things like that. He has definitely missed the point. He should be congratulating Nigerians for finding ways to survive in spite of the failure of the grid. And this is also in spite of the new enactment of the 2024 Power Act that literally devolves ownership of power plants and things like that and brought in the states and so on. To me, that is a sort of commercialization, you get me, that is supposed to move us forward. Not the free market commercialization and privatization, which we have done in the past, but which has kept us further in the dark than hitherto. And you see, to compare the money Nigerians spend on generators with how much you spend on a failing grid is illogical, it's a fallacy. You see, Nigerians go to the small markets, to go to the riverbeds, the fishermen and all these people. They power their businesses with generators. And that reminds me of what one former speaker said the other time, for which I still hold a grudge against him. When they were in the house, they were asking, why can't the grid function? Why can't NEPA then function? Then the man asked, say if NEPA functions well, what will the sellers of generators eat? Do you see the point now? See, so he's more interested in how the informal sector powers itself than in how the national body should provide what is, after all, a public good. It's a public good. And you mark my words, if you don't get our power sector right, we'll never get industrialization right. And if you don't get industrialization right, we won't develop. We'll always be fighting over crumbs from the table of our vast resources. Let's leave it at that for now.
Interesting you should mention the word public good, Mr. Sobowale. So does commercialization entail full control by the private sector? And when it comes to national security, is that the way to go? Doesn't government itself need to retain some form of, ownership at some point when it comes to issues like that?
Look, left to me, it should be nationalization, not commercialization. Do you get me now? Because we have done commercialization before now. That was how the power was dissolved. That's how the power generating companies came in, power transmission companies, discos. They are all literally in debt now. And what Adelabu has been saying all along is that once they pay their debts, they will move on. But if they pay their debts and the grid is still not functional, you get me? How will we get the steady supply? And at the end of the day, it's the discourse that we all turn our anger on, because they are the one who bring the meters and tell us our bills. Yeah. And we have high bills in spite of being in darkness all the time. So left to me, I'm not a socialist, but if I have my way, we'll nationalize the power industry. It's been done all over the world. Mexico, they just got a new lady president now. The former president won the voters' mind and votes in Mexico because he brought in new refineries. You get me? That Mexico will not ever depend on anybody for its power supplies for economic development. We should work in that direction.
Yeah. Also, Mr. Sobowale, but in the event that this commercialization actually manifests, do you have any recommendation regarding regulatory frameworks that might be necessary to prevent monopolistic practices in a fully commercialized power sector?
Look, the commercialization has always been there. Do you get my point? That was how NEPA went. That's how power holding company came in. That's how we are. And it has always failed. You get me? You have Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Authority. So commercialization has always failed. That is the issue. We should look for an alternative, and like you, your fear there, I buy into it. Nationalization, if possible, because it's an emergency. Power production, powers economic development, it powers democracy. Because if people are disgruntled and they live in darkness, the disgruntlement can lead to political instability. So let's take it seriously. I have no grounds with Adelabu. He's talking to investors. You get me? If investors come, the environment is conducive, and if the security is guaranteed, well, let's go on with it. But it has commercialization, privatization, all these are mantras of the IMF in giving us loans. They have always failed. That's my take.
All right, Mr. Sobowale. So how would you describe the current system within the power sector? We have more of an unbundling of PHCN. Do we truly have, as it were, commercialization in the true word, or deregulation has been touted by some people?
That's right.
Deregulation, as we had in the telecoms industry as well.
Deregulation, commercialization, is selling your national assets, literally, in the aim of having efficiency. But you never have the efficiency. You see, that was how the Western world wanted the world to develop. But now, see, they're having competition from China. China is helping countries all over the world with less conditionalities, although they too will get their debts eventually. But they are offering friendlier terms. Look at the rail projects all over the country. It's Chinese. And they are more friendly people. And if you even trade with them, because of their population, you have a bigger market. You get me? You have access to affordable technology to improve your environment and improve your infrastructure. See, all this World Bank strive at their attempts at market efficiency is now obvious. This is just a daydream that has not manifested. Just like the minister was dreaming before investors, when we are all in darkness.
Okay, your opening statement, Mr. Sobowale, I recall you said something about if we don't get electricity right, things in the power sector right, then it's obviously going to affect industrialization. And you're probably not too thrilled with these recommendations because he's talking to the investors, like you say. So if you were approached and asked for 3 immediate steps that need to be taken to see a vast improvement in the power sector to move the country forward, what would those steps be?
Nationalization. One, nationalization. And I've said it here before. Nationalization. Making sure that the grid works. Do you get me? Make sure the grid works. And then, you see, if possible, make generators, importation, You get me? Less cumbersome. Because that's the alternative that has kept Nigerians in light out of darkness. Next.
And of course, one would have expected even the alternative source of energy, solar, as it were, and others.
Yes, okay, that's transition. We are involved in that too. But that one is costly. The transition is costly. And you know, you don't jettison when a bird in hand, it's what to in the bush. We have oil, you get me? Although it pollutes the environment,
indeed.
But we cannot die because of the future. You cannot, we must make maximum use of the oil while transiting to cleaner energy.
Very good.
Yeah.
Mr. Dayo Sobowale, Arise News analyst, many thanks for your thoughts on those issues. Good to have you as always.